Hemang is also joining us now. Good morning, Hemang. Hemang, now Goldman Sachs has come out with a note on Titan, but there are a lot of pulls and pressures out there. Uh, Titan has been getting premium valuations forever, obviously industry leader, but there are other jewelry brands like Senko, Kalyan, others. They're doing phenomenally well. A lot of money is getting flows are getting diverted to these names. Do you think Titan and they had a soft jewelry quarter? Do you think Titan will come back? Or you think investor interest in some of the other jewelry names will remain alive?
Morning, Ajay. I think yes, this quarter Titan numbers were slightly subdued, but when we look at the overall opportunity and even the way Tanishq brand has evolved over the last 4 to 5 years, I don't see any major challenge because at the end of the day, what matters is how big the market is and how Titan is positioned to take advantage of that through distribution channels, and given the credibility and the lineage that this group commands, I don't foresee much of a challenge. I think there is a growth in terms of volume, given the kind of appetite that people have for jewelry. And also, we feel that you will see stable margins once there is a little bit of stability in the gold prices. So valuations, I don't think is too much of an issue. It's all about how big the opportunity is and how Titan can deliver growth. We have a positive view. I think it's a part of the core portfolio.
I'm going to just change gears and go back to Modi stocks. And Kunal, policy stocks or Modi stocks. That's where the excitement is. What should one do? See, this is a swing event, Kunal. It happens once in 5 years. The swing event could also be called as volatile event. Now, which means for policy stocks, a 4-5% swing is coming in the next 2-3 days. And that's a big swing. And that's coming. So what should one do?
So I would believe that having some exposure could be a better strategy over here rather than having no exposure. Now, the best part is, Nikunj, that in the last 1 week, 3, 4, 5 days, specifically, many of these stocks have gone through a correction. So I think the risk reward, which was very skewed, 5 days back, 5 days before, I think that's getting a lot more into a balanced stage. In case if these stocks say correct by another 3, 4, 5%, say in the next couple of days, then I think the risk would be far more better to try and go for a fresh longs, because then we would be talking of at a point where the indicators are hugely oversold and these stocks would probably have priced in much of the negatives, at least over the near term. So I think in that sense, I would probably believe that any incremental dip from here on, in the next 2 days specifically, I think should be a good buying opportunity.
Hemang, in your current portfolio, how much tilt do you have towards policy stocks and how would you approach them before the election verdict?
If somebody wants to play the election as an event, then surely it would be good to have some exposure to the high beta names, where you will see very strong delta if the event is in the favor in either ways, right? So Adani Group, Adani Port, Adani Enterprise, BEML, HAL, Larsen, some of the PSU banks. I think these are the stocks that one should have an exposure to. Of course, it's a big event. IDs are reflecting that 23, 24, which we haven't really seen before. But if somebody has that appetite and you want to play that event, surely these are some of the names that you should go with. Apart from that, I think one smart way to participate in this event would be to do 6th June, Nifty bull call spread. I think that is where you will be able to participate with a very limited risk. So I think these are the names that one should go with to just play this event.
Sure. Hemang, have you been tracking Bata? Because the numbers were better than expectation, but I mean, it's still just a revenue growth of 2%. The margins have also come off a bit. And on the other hand, you had that blockbuster number come by from Campus yesterday, and that stock was up 18%. Have you been tracking this footwear space at all?
Yeah, good morning. So, Bata numbers have been softer, though in line, and just to give you a perspective, for last I think 3 or 4 quarters, the company is not showing any meaningful growth, whereas some of the players like Campus, Metro Brands, are actually delivering better growth. So my feel is that rather than going with a company which has a strong brand or legacy, it would make more sense to go with the companies which are delivering at the ground level. So no doubt campus is run up 18%, but if there is a little bit of cool off, I'll be more than comfortable buying into that. But also metro brands, though it's an expensive stock, I think is the consistency of growth, the distribution, strategy is much better vis-a-vis a Bata. So I would surely go with that.
Okay, there is a big interview in the Economic Times today. Sunil Bharti Mittal, chairman of the Bharti Group, and I think there is an explicit mention of the fact that price hike is coming. Airtel's $100 billion market capitalization reflects a stable economy under a solid leader. There is a hint of price hike. Markets are talking about a price hike. Vodafone has survived. And Vodafone has survived because equity market gave them money. Look at the vibrancy in the equity market. Equity market has given a company or a business money to service and repay their debt. So equity market has rescued a company which in a sense had debt issues. We need to have ARPU of 300 rupees. Below this, the balance sheet will not be strong. Our ARPU headed towards 300? I'm not sure how, but 200 certainly is headed towards 230, 240. That is what everybody is anticipating and expecting. Kunal, is there a trade in Vodafone Idea? It is still an FNO ban, right?
I have not seen the list today.
Okay, but is there a trade there? Can 14, 15 rupees become 20 rupees in 6 months?
I think 16 and a half, 17 could be a trade for Vodafone Idea. But then, of course, I think Bharti Airtel could be a much more better trade this time around, Nikunj, because the way the stock has moved up, I think from 1200, 1250 mark towards 1400, if I'm not wrong, was the recent high Bharti Airtel tested. And it's now come back towards 1360, 1370 levels, which means that now we could be looking at a retest of the 1400 levels and 1400 plus mark for Bharti Airtel. So the stability on the charts is far more better, more consistent as compared to a very high beta, high volatile stock like Vodafone Idea. So I think in that sense, if you ask me relatively, I would probably prefer Bharti Airtel.
We don't talk about it, do we? I mean, 60% up in last 1 year. L&T, how much L&T has done? Let's see how much L&T is done. How much we talk about L&T? Much more than Bharti Airtel. And L&T has given returns which are in line with what, let's say, a Bharti Airtel has done. Hemang, would you buy Vodafone now? Now it is clear that the company has survived. Debt problem is behind. Price hike, if it kicks in, operating leverage benefits would be there. Do you think Vodafone Idea, which is at 15 rupees, 14 and a half, can it go to 20 rupees, even beyond 20 rupees in next 1 year?
When the recent fundraise, the government support and the possibility of some further relaxation that can come through in terms of the AGR dues, it's possible that idea can, go up to about 18, 20 levels. But, there is a certain degree of uncertainty around. It's a little bit high beta stock. Also, we have to reckon that the stock has run up after the FPO around 11 rupees. It has become a 15 rupees. So there is a substantial appreciation which has already happened. So yes, if you're a small investor or if you have a high risk appetite and you want to, play a turnaround story, surely Idea could be one of the stocks to look at. But if I want to play this telecom story, I think Bharti would certainly be the best, stock to have as an allocation stock. Even though it's been one of the best performing stock, I think even the ARPU growth story, this can easily give you 18, 20, 22% kind of a growth over the next couple of years.
The biggest headline of yesterday was the fact that S&P Global Ratings had actually revised the outlook for India to positive from stable earlier. And of course, the finance minister also commented on that, and we'll bring the quote plate up for you. She's of course calling it a welcome development and says that it reflects India's solid growth performance and promising economic outlook for the coming years. But the interesting bit is, Hemang, despite the fact that there was a bit of a reaction in yields, the bank nifty refused to budge. What do you think will make the private banks move? Because this is something that me and Nikunj were also discussing yesterday, that the trade which is the Modi stocks have already played out, but the other trade which is probably pending is the fact of FII reversal and hence a comeback in the private banks. What's your own thesis around this?
Yes, I do agree that the bank nifty has underperformed nifty not just in the last 3 or 6 months, but over the last 2 years. And this is despite, many banks performing so well, both PSUs and private banks, and some of the underperformance was largely, let's say, contributed by names like HDFC Bank or Kotak Bank. Now, I think those also seem to be reversing. So there is a case for a substantial catch up when it comes to Bank Nifty. I think post election, you might see this catch up, once you have a slightly favorable outcome. But nonetheless, I think even when it has not performed so much, I think if somebody has to put fresh money, I think it surely makes a lot of sense given the performance, valuation, comfort. I don't see much of a challenge over there. And recently, the fact bond yields went down when you had that big dividend payout. I think there was a bit of an outperformance. So I think you could look for some more outperformance at least over the next 6 to 12 months.
Friday's data as well. Friday is when the Q4 GDP will be out, and the talk is that it could be upwards of comfortably upward of 7%. That could give Bank Nifty some boost as well. I mean, it's pending for some time, despite of bond yields coming down. They haven't moved, but let's see how it goes. So that's the Bank Nifty versus Nifty for you. One stock I wanted to discuss, Hemang, do you track these forging counters? Be it Bharat Forge, very strong upbeat guidance, and the stock shot up 10% on that day. Last evening, Forgings has come out with a very strong number and margin expansion. There is some amount of course, there are new names, Balu Forge, Happy Forging as well, but any thoughts on these forging counters?
Ajay, Bharat Forge, was more, driven by the commentary and outlook of, on their other businesses, defense and, other global businesses that the company has. No doubt, the core business also was solid and they delivered, in line set of numbers. So I think that, given the kind of data points which are there globally, particularly on the automotive side, there is a certain degree of traction that you're seeing. So be it Forging, RK Forging, they are delivering good set of numbers. So if you really want to play for a mid cap bet, I would be comfortable with the RK Forging or Forging, which are still at a substantial discount to the large players. And there is still a solid growth visibility ahead.
And Vaishali, I wanted to get your sense regarding some of these metal names. Yesterday, of course, it was the day of Hindalco, which was outperforming, but every day there is this one stock from the metals pack which fires up. Today, what are you expecting? Is it going to be Tata Steel or some other name also comes to mind?
Actually, yes, Tata Steel looks very promising, but along with this, of course, it's a slow mover, but I am also tracking JSW Steel. So JSW Steel has not really met with its target. So I think JSW Steel still looks positive with support of 870, and I would be looking at 970. And for momentum purpose, I think Vedanta could be the stock that one can look into because Vedanta also holding pretty well in spite of this choppy market. So if it holds on like 435 levels as support, I think it will be ready for a new round of momentum. So yes, these are the stocks to my liking right now.
What's the view on Reliance, Vaishali? Because it's been very, very sideways, not really doing anything for the bulls of late.
So Reliance, well, it has been taking some profit booking, and if we sustain lower, and today also market, we are seeing a gap down opening, I guess. So this will perhaps go towards 2850 to 2820 levels.
Okay. It's been a good year actually for Reliance so far. Could Reliance be that swing stock for the election day, Kunal? I mean, because if FIs come back, they will come back either in a bank or they will come back in a heavyweight. Could Reliance be that swing stock for the month of June?
So I think risk reward wise, yes, it could be a good stock. Even HDFC Bank, which is on the verge of a breakout above its 200 DM. It's a big event technical event for the stock because historically we've seen that whenever HDFC Bank has, after spending almost 2-3 months below its long-term moving average, whenever it's managed to break out, it's provided another sort of a 10% to 15% rally in a matter of the next 45 days, one and a half odd month or so for the stock price. So that also is a very important breakout, and of course being one of the higher constituents on the Nifty as well as on the Bank Nifty, this could probably also propel the indices on the much higher side going forward. So I think these are the two stocks which of course I would probably keep an eye on. Even the likes of L&T For example, the stock covering up the underperformance we discussed earlier, that the stock is on the verge of a breakout for itself. And even if it's a retest of the previous highs of say 3,750, 800 for L&T, we could be looking at least another 200 to 250 point rally for the stock.
Okay. Vaishali, yesterday there was also another big, in fact, the only, I would say, auto ancillary stock which is giving company in size and heft to Samil is Uno Minda. It's becoming the second, third largest. Uno Minda stock is now nudging 900 bucks. How do the charts look over there?
I think it's showing a lot of strength. Yesterday, the volume also has really surged. And I think the trend is very strong. It was just consolidating, and now we are getting into new round of momentum. So I think 820 acts as a good support, and this can go towards 900, 920.
And what about the entire hospitality segment, Hemang? What are you watching out for within that? Because while of course they have given solid returns of late, at least in Q1 there is sign that occupancy has been petering.
Not comfortable buying fresh onto these names. The story continues to look good, when it comes to the overall growth in the tariff rates and particularly the companies which have completed the capex, maybe like Indian Hotels or Lemon Tree. But I am not very comfortable because we think that a large part of the story has already played out, and there are no real incremental triggers to look at. So I would be more comfortable buying into these names only if there is a meaningful, let's say 5 to 10% kind of a correction.
It's a point taken for now. The pre-open hasn't really settled, but 500 on the Nifty, and that's 22,500 of course. I'm sure it's going to settle down because we're not likely to open that low, but let's see where we go from there. The Sensex also is expected to open below the mark of 74,500. A lot of individual names that we are watching out for on account of earnings, right from a Tata Steel, Cummins to Forgings, Lemon Tree, and the whole plethora of stocks that we are watching out for today. But overall, IT has been one space which hasn't done really anything, and for good reason, because there has been nothing incremental as such. But Hemang, these are the kind of opportunities that investors wait by, right? When there is value, because otherwise in the market, everything seems to be very overheated.
So I think, Anisha, we have to reckon that the traditional IT services, there are no real great growth drivers in place except for the fact that the stocks have not performed, or you may argue that the valuations are slightly better. But I think people come into the equity market for growth, and yes, there is going to be a certain degree of risk, but it would make more sense to participate in those stories unless you are a totally passive kind of an investor who's looking for a 12-14% kind of a growth. So I would think that if you really want to play IT and if you have a slightly higher risk appetite, go with the niche companies like maybe Latent View, something like Naukri, which is showing a turnaround in their core business. Some of the data analytics company. I think that is where you will see good growth opportunity, because even when you look at US market, the semiconductor, the artificial intelligence, those are the stories which are really doing well. But the typical, services companies, I think people are not really paying too much of attention.
Companies, another niche dairy company came out with results yesterday. Did you track it? Heritage Foods. Heritage Foods is a very interesting name right now, not only because it's a dairy company which is showing improvement in margins, but also because it happens to be Chandrababu Naidu's daughter's company. And the way trends are blowing, Chandrababu Naidu is all likelihood come back as chief minister there. So that's a different trivia. But here we'll only talk about the fundamentals, and there are almost 200 basis point expansion in the margins showed at Heritage. Do you track this counter? I mean, this space overall has gotten a bit re-rated. Hemang, this dairy space, people are taking it more seriously now. But value-added dairy companies like Heritage, any thoughts here?
Ajay, when you look at the dairy companies, Parag, the Dodla dairy, both the numbers were not good at all. While some of the companies like Dodla, they delivered on the top line, but the margin part, there is a bit of a disappointment. Also, one important element which came out during the con calls is that first time you're seeing the significant growth in the input cost, the milk prices. So my feel is that one should avoid the space, because anyway the corporate governance and those issues are very much there because of the manner in which the businesses are operating across the country. So I would certainly avoid the space at this point.
Before I let you go, let me throw a few rapid fire questions at you. Leave us with one tactical trade for elections. One.
So is that question for me?
Yes, Hemang, it's for you.
Okay, I'm giving you two. Go with Adani Enterprise and go with HAL.
Your top bet within the pharma pack?
I would certainly go with TV's Lab. I think given the way the company has posted numbers and the kind of comments which have come out, I would be more comfortable, buying that one.
PSU stock apart from HL that you've already mentioned.
SBI.
Okay, so there you have it. A lot of stock pickings coming in from Hemang. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us today, Hemang. Always a pleasure. In the meantime, just flash